Have all your videos, do all your hype stuff. That no one cares. I have no issue with that. But go to class. Just go to class.
On today's Wind Up Wednesday edition of the Yacht Coaches Podcast, Dr. Adams and Coach Francis discuss the overall state of basketball. From high school to grassroots to college and the pros, hear their thoughts and insights on this always topical issue. Welcome to today's show.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Yacht Coaches Podcast special holiday edition, State of Basketball Year in Review. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and with me today, again, since we're talking about basketball, I'm going to go to the celebrities again. It's my tag team partner. I'm going to go Rodman this time, but Dennis Rodman to my Hulk Hogan when basketball players were all celebrities. I didn't pick DDP and Karl Malone because I'm sure he's out buying Christmas gifts, being the great pops that he... Oh,
no, stop.
Too soon?
Too soon. Too soon.
Mr. Khan,
That's
the showstopper, the main event, and the reason why we are here. Coach Mike Francis, Coach.
Yo, that's an intentional foul. That's an intentional foul. 2 shots in the ball.
And the ball on the side.
And if you're in the hoop group, you get 2 points, 2 shots, and the ball outside. You're giving up a 7-point play, possibly.
I gotta take off my glasses. My tears are falling. Sorry about that. That just came up.
Man,
so today, about 6 months ago, give or take, we did a state of basketball. And my partner just couldn't make it because he's doing just a lot. And I have been out a lot more, as you've heard from the show the last few weeks, watching high school and college basketball, and things just keep coming up. And my son is playing 14U, AAU8 middle school ball, whatever. So I'm just in it. And I'm watching a lot of pro and college and doing the show. So I'm like, Mike, as we end this year, this is just a good time to stop and pause. And we hope, parents and student athletes and coaches just give us a listen. And let's talk about the state of high school basketball in segment 1, men's and women's college basketball in segment 2, and pro basketball in segment 3, both the NBA and WNBA. So, Mike, the overall state of high school basketball, what do you think? Is it healthy right now for high school basketball? Does it need to cut down its caloric intake? What do you think about the overall state of high school basketball?
I think the overall state is changing, but I think it's still as emotionally connected or emotionally, how we say, charged community-wise as it was in the past. I think the way it's go about it, though, is some changes. The thing that surround the game is changing. Media coverage. Everybody has their own website now. Everybody does videos. Everybody's a sports media person. And I got this website. I'm going to give you these looks. And everybody's a, reporter, so to speak. And anybody with a phone can tell a story now.
Yes.
So I think that's increased with high school sports. You have more media coverage, more internet people involved. And I think it kind of also ruins the game because there's been incidents at early this year between 2 very good high schools in PG County.
Yeah.
Where a video was made for Snapchat at one school's field. Then the players saw it, and then they went to that school to respond on their game field. Then the game we played earlier this year, the kids took pictures in the locker room with wrestling belts because they beat our JV, and it inspired the varsity to give them a 40 burger, that kind of thing. And so it's like the things surrounding the game have changed. The private schools are still the private schools. It's a great sense of basketball. I just think the things surrounding the game have changed, which forces coaches to either take a hardline old school approach or you just almost like anything goes.
And I'm glad you brought that up because I'm concerned about the overall state of the game. Basketball will always be basketball, and that's good. But I'm like my doctor. My doctor says, Keith, as you get older, you got to eat better. You got to make sure you exercise. Got to take care of yourself. Okay, you're doing fine, but there's areas of growth, and I'm not seeking perfection. I'm seeking better. Let's be better. Okay, and you don't have to lose 50 pounds, but you can lose 5. And if you lose 5 enough times, you're going to feel healthier and whatever. And that's kind of what I'm thinking about with, especially public school basketball. It's hard to get good coaches, and because of state restrictions across states, not just state of Maryland, but across states, it's just hard to do things with the players. And then private is just that, private. You got to pay for things, got to pay for the schools. And one of the things that I'm seeing is a lack of the balance. That's why I wrote the book. Um, with all of the movement, the academic pieces are falling, and there's going to be at some point, and we smile when we say it, but you got to go to somebody's class eventually, and you got to read somebody's book, and you got to have some basic skills, because the states require you have 4 math classes, 4 English classes, science, social. So if you've invested all of this athletically and you haven't done anything academically, you're going to miss out on opportunities anyway. So, one of the suggested areas of improvement for high schools is to be more boring in terms of making sure student athletes fulfill basic requirements. Have all your videos, do all your hype stuff. That no one cares. I have no issue with that. But go to class. Just go to class. Make sure you handle, that route. So we're going to transition to grassroots basketball, because I'm also out more with grassroots basketball, AAU, club ball. And Mike, what are your thoughts on the overall state of grassroots basketball as opposed to high school basketball?
I think it's going to be, I think it's better. I'm seeing a lot of good coaches going into grassroots. For instance, the organization that I used to be in, Crusader Nation, is one of the top, programs in the area.
Just hadn't heard the name in a while.
Yeah, it used to
just
be
brings back memories.
Yeah, it used to be First Baptist, but we're Crusader Nation. Well, we were Crusader Nation, and I just saw some guys that they brought in. They just brought in Gary Neal,
Mm-hmm.
and they brought in the Bowden brothers. They used to run Baltimore Select. So they're bringing in a very, very good group of coaches. And at their height is when we had 5 high school coaches in the program. It was myself. It was Nick Miles, who's now the head coach at St. Francis. Al Holly was the head coach at Milford Mill, playing for state championships
every year.
Every year. Juan was at, not Juan, David was at Poly, what's it called? Saint, the one in Laurel. What's the name of
Pilati.
Pilati. He was at Pilati. And then we had another head coach from a C conference school. So it was 5 of us. 5 head coaches that was in the AAU organization, grassroots organization. So it was really, really good teaching going on. The thing about Keith and Takeover is the level of his coaches. You know what I mean? I think this ain't somebody's dad making a team because they can't.
Yes. Laugh too loud, fans. Laugh too loud.
That's not what this is. This is real basketball. This is real training. This is, getting things done. So kudos to those groups.
Yeah. I mean,
organizations like that.
I'm with you. Grassroots is strong right now. If you're in the right organization, they actually do a good job of the balance piece. They've got academic people on their staff. They've got good coaches on their staff. They got access to facilities. And if you're really good, they've partnered with either a strong public school or strong private school to build those bridges and build those connections. So unlike my pause with high school basketball, if you're in the right grassroots organization that you're growing and building with, a group of kids and families, hey man, I think you're in a good situation. And I think that's a good way to transition to college ball. So when we get back in segment 2, we're going to talk about the state of college basketball on the Coaches podcast.
There is an old business adage that says, what gets measured and monitored gets done. It is also fact that deadlines spur action. That is what the CKA SAVE Project Academic Monitoring Service can do for student athletes. Measure and monitor their academic progress to improve their grades. Our academic monitoring services provide ongoing academic support for student athletes for a designated period of time. Our academic success coaches work with student athletes on time management and organizational skills, along with improving their ability to self-advocate. Every few weeks, our academic success coaches meet with student athletes to assess their academic progress, as well as provide ongoing academic advising. If needed, student athletes have access to CKA Learning Specialists who provide virtual core subject academic support for student athletes. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free virtual consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast, special holiday edition, the state of basketball. And in segment 2, we're going to talk about the overall state of men's and women's college basketball. And Mike, I'm going to, bullet point you. So first of all, overall, how you feel about the overall state of the game, college basketball? And then we will hit these other items independently.
I like it. I like where it is right now for the simple fact that like we got SEC is known for the football conference, but last year they had their top teams in the basketball conference. So there's some parity going on amongst, the regular conference. At one point it was you were ACC, Big East, Big Ten teams, some schools out west, but for the SEC to be as good as it was last year between Tennessee, Auburn, and those are it was very good to see. Because before it was Kentucky and Florida, and that's it.
Yeah.
You was Kentucky and Florida, and that's it. But now it's good to see.
And I wholeheartedly agree with you. If you pick right, it's great. Because there are really good programs across the country, men's and women's. And if you as an individual pick the right fit for you, man, it is a phenomenal time to be a part of college basketball. So let's hit the stickler, so to speak. What are your thoughts on the transfer portal? What are your thoughts on?
I'm not against it for the fact that coaches leave. I said it earlier in many episodes. Till we get to the point where we make it tough for coaches to do things, we shouldn't be worried about the players. That's a middle management thing. I hate it because prior to that, to me, it was a form of slavery where if I leave or if a new coach come in, you're not going to these schools.
Mm-hmm.
I liken it to my son. He couldn't transfer to Penn State. He couldn't transfer to any of the schools that the former coaches went to, like Illinois or anything. So the previous staff between Loxley, Franklin, Salazzo, Kosh, Edsel wouldn't let them transfer to any of those schools.
Mm-hmm.
He wouldn't sign off on it. And I'm glad that's gone for the most part. I'm glad it's gone.
Yeah, I'm a fan of free market. Anybody who listens to me or read the book knows I'm a big fan of free market. I'm a fan of the transfer portal. I'm not a fan of the why. I think more structures are needed. I think they need to solidify the dates of it. In terms of for insert fall sports, here are the dates. For insert winter sports, firm up the dates, not the movement, but the dates. And for spring, here's that. I think they should also do the same for coaches. So everything can kind of align, but each individual school can do, whatever. But people just pick wrong. We did an episode talking about football, and there's 1,600 kids in the portal. There should be 1,600 kids in the portal. And every year in basketball, the number goes up. And folks, it's going up on the women's side as well.
So would the dates make people pick better?
It would. I think so. And here's why I think so. Because we're in the business of education. And if the dates match up to the semester, we have concluded our academic portion as well. So now kids are not leaving, and you know this as a junior college coach, with 3 credits. How you go to school for all this time and you got no credits? What? Because if you don't finish the semester and you just leave, them credits ain't coming with you.
And I keep their ass for summer school, make them take 9 credits to count toward the fall.
So as long as you're making, significant progress to graduation, that is the phrase I like to use, significant progress to graduation, nice and open. I got no problem with that. But that's my thoughts on the transfer portal. Mike, what are your thoughts on NIL? We get to talk to franchise formally about NIL.
Yeah, it's good. I think it's good. I think the coaches and schools shouldn't be the only ones making money off what the kids do in performance. Chris Webber said it best. They got off the bus after the game, bus back to the school after the game at 11:30, 12 o'clock. He walks by the school store. His jersey's on sale for $50. He don't have $5 in his pocket to get a fish sandwich at Burger King.
Huh? So I'm a fan of NIL. I'm not a fan of the lack of education about NIL. And part of that's the school, part of that's the individual. I think high school student athletes need to take more business courses, take accounting, take finance. All of these different things are available. And I'm talking about at public schools. I mean, in my previous location, we had an academy of finance. And so you're learning yourself, marketing and all of that, increased education. See how I keep coming back to education. And then in college, I think student athletes should have, if you're playing a sport, and that's division 1, 2, or 3, you need to have three credit course, or a year-long, 2, 3 credit classes on this, and let that be one of your electives. So you're actually learning how all of this works in a formal aspect. I mean, because some of the student athletes, at the end of the year, tax man's come, and you need no tax man come. And when the tax man comes, you better listen to your uncle, because your uncle ain't gonna leave you. So you cash all his checks, flashed all his bling, and did you fill out your taxes? So that's my thought on that. Any suggested areas of improvement you would want for just the things we talked about in terms of just the overall state of the game?
So question I have for you along those lines is, I am on a music scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I get sponsored by a guitar company or a trumpet makes oboes or whatever the hell it is.
Whatever.
All right. And this is prior to NIL. Remember, some college students are in symphonies.
Yes.
Had they always had to file taxes?
Oh, yes, absolutely. If you are forget sports. If you're making an income and it's more than $600, tax man's coming. Tax man is coming. So again, it's just every student who's doing anything like that should be educated on how this process works. It's the life skills you're supposed to learn. So again, I don't care what you do, but most of those kids already know about taxes. And a lot of the kids dealing with NIL for the first time have never been educated on any of this. In the hallways, ain't no degrees coming from the hallway.
No, that ain't. But also, they don't have magnet programs where kids have to do certain things to make the school look better, because we're increasing the amount of minority students taking this Algebra 2 course. And so when you put those things in place and you have graduation requirements for other things, you don't have time for that. Like if I'm in IB, most people who play IB or NIB can't play sports.
Well, I would highly disagree with that in terms of how do they book it for IB?
And that's my point. In Anne Arundel County, it's different.
Yes.
In Anne Arundel County, you got 4 hours of homework, 3 to 4 hours of homework every night.
It's just time management. It's just time management. We've got kids in early college who get their associate's degree before they get a high school diploma. and they're able to play sports
And how
because
many classes do
it's-
they take a day?
they take a full credit, and it goes back to how you manage your time and what you're willing as an individual to sacrifice. If you're willing to give up something for this greater goal that you
And
have
it's
as an
usually
individual,
sports. That's the point. And in our
Yeah.
county, it's usually sports. And
man,
number two, is that class offered at your school or you go to community college?
so it depends on how you do it. Some of the college classes are offered at Montgomery College where they have to go,
Mhm.
and some of the classes are offered in-house. And it just goes to scheduling, man.
Right.
It goes to having advocates advocating for your part. It goes to having a coach, as Ajwa said in her episode over a year ago, who is like, how can we best serve you? How can we best help? If Dickman was famous for this, my head coach, Tom Dickman, was famous for, give me your class schedules and we're going to put it on a big board and we're
Right.
going to practice around that as
In
opposed
college.
to what, you know.
Right.
And the same thing we can make things happen for anything we want to make happen. And
in
adults
Montgomery County.
in the country,
Well,
if adults find barriers to success, they can be successful. And if you want to find ways around these barriers, you can be successful. You can do
That's the
whatever
point.
it is you want to do
Mhm.
to help our kids, no matter what, because it has already been done. None of this is new.
It's not,
None
but
of it is
it's
new.
more of an approach that you pick one or the other in Anne Arundel County, from my experience. And I've been a long time doing
Yes,
it.
you have.
Those classes start at 1:00 in the afternoon at Anne Arundel. So, but we have to practice and be done before 6 because Rec and Parks take our gyms at 6:00.
Yes. Yes.
All right. So
Mhm.
we got 2 JVs, 2 varsities. All right. Trying to get in the gym, cheerleaders trying to get in the gym. That's 5 teams you trying to fit in 5-hour period in a 5-hour block to practice in one gym. All right. So you're limited with practice time.
Yes, you
At
are.
the same time, that practice time is when the kid's taking a class in Arnold, Maryland, but I'm coaching at North County, which is all the way the other end of the county. So how
that
does-
kid is a college kid, right?
right.
And that college kid, by every college in the country, can be excused from class because
But
colleges
I'm not
are
worried about
already dealing
class.
with
I'm
that.
talking about my practice.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
That's what I'm talking
We
about.
can
I
figure it
need him
out.
in practice. Because if he's allowed to miss practice and play, then everyone else is going to say, well, I missed practice too. I got to
Man,
do studying. I got to do homework. It's too much. I got a test coming up. Now
the
you got
world
8
is full of
kids in practice.
exceptions. We talk about the world being full of exceptions
Mm-mm.
every week on the show.
I'm
but-
not accepting it.
Let's go to the path to the NBA now. So there's 60 picks in the NBA draft, unless teams cheat, and then it's 58, which has happened before. So Bleacher Report listed the 24 players on their 2023 NBA watch list. Okay. So in terms of college players, out of the 24 players they listed, Mike, they listed 13 freshmen. They listed 2 sophomores, 3 juniors, and 2 seniors. Yet, at the end of this season, let's just say we're going to have a lot of people declaring for the draft.
Mhm.
I'm not mad at you,
Mhm.
but based on data already with only 30 picks in the first round,
Mhm.
on the watch list, there's 24, and that's the breakdown.
Mhm.
One G League player who is, at this point, barring injury or ridiculousness, they're going to be in the top 5. 2 overtime elite players going to be in the top 10. And 1 overseas player is going to be number 1. Victor's going to be number 1. So again, the WNBA is even harder because they only got like 12 teams. So any thoughts on the path to the professional ranks
Mhm.
or any
Mm.
advice you would give to these players?
Unfortunately, you got to go. Chris Paul just got his degree now. He came out of college when?
A long time.
As a sophomore, he just now got his degree. You can always get your degree. And
Always
why
go
am I
back.
going to stay in there if you rank 13 freshmen in the top 24? Why am I worrying about my education? You're already telling me I can be a millionaire. Why am I going to go? And why is this an issue with basketball? But I can turn pro. I mean, Freddie Adu was what, 14, 15 when he turned pro in soccer? Nobody said nothing about that. If I played baseball, Nobody said nothing about that. If I'm a skater, no one said nothing about that. If I do any country club sport and decide to turn pro before I'm 18, it's okay. But we put restrictions on NBA and NFL.
Well, now you have to remember that's multiple questions. One, the NBA, not college, says you have to be a high school graduate or
And
whatever.
why? Who forced that?
Yeah.
Where
So
did
that's
the
a
pressure
CBA
come
thing.
from?
My guess is the pressure came from the players because they're taking salaries
Right.
away from them.
Oh, it couldn't come from a newly appointed Republican person in charge of the NCAA that jumps on these schools in cahoots with NBA?
I don't know. And then
Yeah.
two,
Okay.
because you have different options now to make money, a lot of those barriers have been eliminated if you're an elite player. Like Timmy from Gonzaga came back to school because he projected himself as not an NBA player, and I'm going to make more money hanging out in Spokane, Washington.
He's not.
So
You can
it's
go
all on how
overseas
you
right
want to
now.
book it. It's all on how you want to book it, and the WNBA is even harder because they have fewer teams, fewer slots, and you got first round picks getting the boot. They cut who? Wow. So, this is what it is, but that was a very spirited discussion, sir. And that's what we're here for. So when we get back, we're going to talk about pro sports now. We're going to talk about the NBA and the WNBA when we get back on the Odd Coaches Podcast.
The reviews are in for Dr. Keith Adams' book, Finding the Balance, My Personal Journey to Academic and Athletic Success. College professor and student athlete academic expert Dr. Lisa Rubin said, "There is nothing out there like this book, so I do hope people will pay attention and give it a read." Former George Mason standout Folarin Campbell said, "Consider this book an opportunity to work directly with Dr. Adams just like I did. I assure you that there will be something you can take away that will be useful to you throughout your personal journey." Ryan Waite, a recent college graduate who is a software engineer, said, "I like how the book is based on research, which makes it good for general students as well as student athletes." The book serves as both a memoir to Dr. Adams' 30-year academic and athletic career, as well as an instructional guide to assist student athletes, parents, coaches, teachers, and administrators navigate through the challenges of finding a better balance between academic and athletic success. The book includes over 15 personal stories and anecdotes from Dr. Adams, along with numerous former players and colleagues from a variety of sports and endeavors. You can order your copy at www.ckasaveproject.org. From the main page, simply click CKA Save Project Services and order the Find the Balance book. For more information, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Yacht Coaches Podcast. In segment 3, we're going to talk about the state of the NBA and the WNBA, and we might actually answer some of the questions Mike had, which were legitimate. So with the NBA, off the court, the CBA is an issue because the NBA and the NBA-PA are working to reach an agreement before each side gives plans of notice to opt out of the current CBA in December 2023. The 7-year CBA that was signed expires after the 2023-2024 season, and contracts and the lack of honoring deals, plus the league exploring a hard cap, gives me concern, Mike, because the older players want to make money as long as they can. And having an influx of younger players costs them money. In addition, the NBA is talking about expansion. Okay. Well, if you expand, we want those jobs to go to vets. We don't want those jobs to go to young people. But the NBA says, hey, man, let's have young people because that first contract is that first contract. Any thoughts about the CBA and, the trouble I see coming?
It's going to be some issues, especially with off the court things that's going on. People are going to have to. They're going to look into. To me, they're going to look into more ways that players can forfeit their salary or like be fined. If you ask me, for everything that's going on now, that's just the way I see they're trying to go.
I agree with you because some off court issues, all the things with Kyrie, I predict will be a part of the next CBA. When you can find players, I mean, some of the language that the Nets used was
Mhm.
inflammatory.
Mhm.
It was like, whoa, I got a contract. So that's going to be a part of CBA.
At the
I
end of the
may,
day, go
go
ahead. I'm
ahead.
sorry. Go ahead.
No, because I made Doka situation. I predict will be a part of the next CBA.
Mhm.
Okay. And
Mhm.
clearer language will be, put in because quite frankly, with the NBA, there was selective outrage with a lot
Mhm.
of these different things
Exactly.
because no one had selective outrage when it dealt with China.
Mhm.
It was selective silence. But with some of the other things, let's speak out on this, but let's not speak out on that. So you were selecting your causes. And I think that's going to be a part of the next CBA and more will be put into the language. But that's my speculation. What do you think?
I think I honestly do. At the end of the day, it's a business. Let's be
Mhm.
honest. And if I'm working at IBM or if I'm working at Apple or anywhere else, I can't do certain things because that's the contract that I signed.
Mhm.
I'm not signing up to be a spokesman, so to speak. I'm not signing up to be a martyr. I'm signing up to be a basketball player. Now, does that mean I have a right to opinion? Yes, I do. I do have a right to opinion. But at some point, we have to draw the line.
Mhm.
Now, if you want to use a platform, yes, you have a platform. Then quit playing basketball and become that. Martin Luther King ain't shoot a jump shot. Malcolm X don't play defense. So you either one of it's just one or the other. Yes, you can have an opinion, and yes, you can help. All right. Jim
Goes
Brown
back
was
to
a
the
great example.
goes back to the Charles Barkley commercial in the early '90s. I'm not a
Yeah,
role
I'm not
model.
your. I'm not a
I
role
get
model.
paid to wreak havoc
Yep,
on the basketball court.
that's it.
All right. So the game itself, we're going to go on the court. You are openly seeing a changing of the guard. A lot of the people, are going to be retiring in the next 2 or 3 years. Again, I think basketball is in good hands. Um, Zion, Ja Morant, is a heck of a player. A lot of these cats, I think they're going to do a good job. The influx, don't get mad at me, of the European talent
It's
that are
good.
coming in.
Yes.
And I said, don't give me grief because of the award system.
Mm.
It helps. Uh, to some, it helps marketing globally if
Oh,
uh,
really?
there's a spread of awards, but that's not how they pick. They pick it based on merit. Two-time MVP.
Just like they
Um,
pick head coaches. Yeah,
yeah. Okay.
on merit.
So moving forward with the state of the NBA, man, the road to the NBA, the WNBA, is really, really hard because there's only 12 teams. In addition, the treatment gap is crazy because we're taping this in December and there's really not any off-season coverage. And the only person I've heard about with the WNBA is Brittany Griner,
And
and it's
she didn't
because
even
she was
play.
detained.
Yeah.
That's why. So there's got to be something, with that. And the fact that they have to do gimmicks like the Commissioner's Cup and the midseason tournament, I just wish that more eyeballs could be put on the project.
But whose fault is
Um,
that?
the blame is everywhere. Um, but man, I don't hear anything about WNBA in the offseason.
Mm-mm.
A lot going on with football and everything else. It just gets pushed. So smarter people than me have to, create the time and the efforts to come up with just ways to improve the product. Mike, any thoughts on the WNBA or what you would do if you would make suggestions to them? Because
I might change the season.
I want to change the season back to a more traditional basketball
Yeah, I
season,
want to
but
change the season.
when they're gonna fill in, I mean, it's hard to get on Sports Center now.
Well, I mean, but women's college basketball is playing the same time as men's college basketball, but just different dates.
Yeah.
So we know that NBAs don't play on certain dates. Maybe we reduce the amount of times they play a week and only put them on those dates. So you're not competing. We got
Yeah, like WNBA Wednesday or something like that.
yeah,
Is that
we
what you're
got
thinking about?
we got like 35 ESPN channels. Find one. You got Fox Sports, you got CBS Sports, you got Barstool, like all these different, somebody can come out with them and market it, put it together. And then you got to get fans. We can't keep complaining, but they're not selling out.
Yeah.
Like Dion said with, HBCUs, we're not selling stadiums. That's why we can't get TV deals.
And I get slapped on the wrist for this thought, and you may disagree with that too. But in the school system, girls play before boys on doubleheader days, and if the Mystics played at 5:30 and the Wizards played at 8, and you charge the same ticket price, man, I'd eat that slow whatever and use the extra concession money. I would do something like that because a good friend of mine, Coach Tanya Banks, and if I ever coached again, she'd be the first person I call. She used to tell me all the time, we were at Springbrook together, Keith, I would much rather have a packed crowd for the third and fourth quarter of my game than everybody leave at the end of yours, because that's more demoralizing for my girls than it is the way sometimes, and I don't even know if the counties do this anymore. I know they have double headers and they split, I don't know. Yeah. But she said, man, when we had double headers, we got extra excited because we knew you were going to draw, and the end of our game would be packed. And if it was a close game or something, goes crazy. You included us in the holiday tournament because you wanted us to have that experience too. So I alternated girl game, boy game, girl game, boy game, championship. And, so that's kind of how I feel. I don't know if you agree or disagree, but that's kind of something that I would do. But some people would just, and that's their prerogative. And I understand that, yes, we're still using the men to draw and the women could draw on their own. And well, not really based on data. Not really based on data. All right. Any final thoughts, man, before we close out? This was awesome, brother, and I appreciate it.
It was good to get that, good to get that in about the state of each level of basketball. I'm glad that we're able to have that conversation, and I think it should be more conversation on it. And we need to start putting the finger on the issues and solving the issues and stop passing it along and hoping it'll go away on its own.
Yeah, man, this was wonderful. So on behalf of my tag team partner, Coach Mike Francis, I'm Keith Adams, wishing everybody a safe, restful, joyous holiday season. And we will see you on the sideline somewhere. Until next time, take care.
The Odd Coaches podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student-athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student-athletes' academic and athletic skills, to measuring and monitoring student-athlete academic progress, to improving student-athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA Save Project provides wraparound services for student-athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by emailing cka@ckasaveproject.org. We hope you enjoyed today's show. The Odd Coaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the Odd Coaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the Odd Coaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Odd Coaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach FRANCHIZE. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the Odd Coaches podcast.